إنه لقرآن كريم في كتاب مكنون لا يمسه إلا المطهرون. Now, this is a recitation which is located in a book which is protected, and none can touch this book except those who are pure and clean. So, what is so important about the positions in which the stars are located? Answer. This verse of the Quran is pointing to you that if you want to study the verses of the Quran, you have to do it the way you study the positions in which the stars are located in order to read the sky. There used to be a time when we had scholars who used to study the Quran this way, but today we've lost it. So you have to look to see the connections between verses of the Quran to be able to understand what the subject is. So here is a verse of Surah Al-Saba, and Sulaiman alayhi salam is ruling over the world in the holy state of Israel located in Jerusalem, the holy state, the Khilafah state of Israel located in Jerusalem, and he's ruling over it. He's a king and he's a prophet. And Allah sends him a vision, and the vision terrifies him. وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّا سُلَيْمَانَ. We tested Suleiman. We gave him something which caused him distress. وَأَلْقَيْنَا عَلَى كُرْسِيهِ جَسَدٍ. And we placed a jasad on his throne. We will come to the word jasad shortly. When he saw this jasad, he immediately understood the meaning of the vision. Me, I would take a lifetime to understand, but not Suleiman. Automatically he understood. And we know how he understood the vision based on his response. What was his response? قال رب اغفر لي وهب لي ملكا لا ينبغي لأحد من بعدي. He said, first of all, he sought forgiveness from Allah, not for any particular sin he committed. No. This is his way, that when he wants to ask for something, he first asks for forgiveness. And so when you want to ask for something, you know how difficult it is today to get married. So when you want to ask for something, first of all ask for forgiveness and then ask for what you want. وَهَبْ لِي مُلْكًا لَا يَنْبَغِي لِأَحَدٍ مِّن بَعْدِي. Two meanings. And grant that none can inherit my kingdom after me, and grant that there could never be another kingdom comparable to mine. And so now, it is possible for us to recognize what was his understanding of the vision, namely, that person sitting on my throne, whom Allah has shown to me, is a very, very evil person, and he wants to inherit my kingdom. This is the Khilafah state, the only one on earth, the only one. And Allah says, He told the angels, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa. So the purpose of sending mankind on earth was to establish this Khilafah state. And yet, he is asking Allah, I don't want anyone to inherit this kingdom after me. لا ينبغي لأحد من بعدي. Hence, Sulaiman alayhi salam is asking that Holy Israel, the Khilafah state of Israel, should perish when he dies. There is proof that our explanation of the Quran is correct. The proof is that after Sulaiman alayhi salam died, Allah answered his dua and the holy state of Israel perished and was never restored until this day. So now then, who or what was the Jasad? A Jasad is a body without a soul. And that is what the Samiri forged from gold when Musa alayhi salam was up the mountain. While Musa was up the mountain, that is what the Samiri did. So now, the Jasad was a golden calf. And Samiri told them that you must worship the golden calf. And they're doing that up to this day. But this Jasad cannot be a calf. This Jasad wants to inherit Holy Israel. So this Jasad has to be a human being, but not a human being with a human nafs. No. He has to be a human being without a human nafs. Okay, so I came to the conclusion, and I'm confident that I'm correct, that that evil being sitting on the throne who wants to inherit Holy Israel is Dajjal, the false Messiah. This is ayah mutashabiha, meaning a verse of the Quran which has to be interpreted with ta'weel in order to be understood. And we have the freedom up to this day to interpret the Quran. However, whoever you are when you interpret the Quran, even if you are Shia, only Allah can confirm that the interpretation is correct. And so when we interpret the Quran, we always say, Allahu Alam, Allah knows best. We can be right and we can be wrong, but we have the right to interpret the Quran. If we interpret the Quran correctly, then that becomes truth and it will prevail. If we make a mistake in interpreting the Quran, we still get barakah for having made the effort. But tomorrow it will go down the river of no return and be forgotten. So when I interpret the Quran, you must not accept my interpretation unless you are convinced that I am correct. And so now we have from the Quran division. The Dajjal is going to be sitting on the throne of Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam after Nabi Sulaiman alayhi salam passes away. Now we turn to the other verse, which I think is in maybe Surah Al-Nahl. Namal, I don't remember correctly. وَلَمَّا قَضَيْنَا سُلَيْمَانَ الْمَوْتِ. When death came to Sulaiman, what happened? مَا ضَلَّهُمْ عَنْ مَوْتِهِ إِلَّا. Notice how slowly I'm going. مَا ضَلَّهُمْ عَنْ مَوْتِهِ إِلَّا دَابَّةُ الْأَرْضِ تَأْكُلُ مِنْ سَأَتَهُ. When we caused Sulaiman to die, مَا ضَلَّهُمْ عَنْ مَوْتِهِ إِلَّا دَابَّةُ الْأَرْضِ تَأْكُلُ مِنْ سَأَتَهُ. Nothing, they did not know that he was dead until Dabbatul Ard came and consumed the minsa of his stuff. When we go to this is the uncomfortable part of the lecture now. I wish I didn't have to share this with you. When we go to the tafsir of the Quran, this is what we get. It is painful for me to say that something to be found in the classical tafsir is nonsense. It is painful for me to say that. The classical tafsir,
Classical tafsir.
yeah, the explanations that are given in the classical tafsir. What you find in the classical tafsir is that when Suleiman died, he died while sitting on his throne, holding on to his staff. And nobody knew he was dead. And he kept on sitting on the throne all day, not talking, not moving, not going to eat, not going to the bathroom, not going to sleep. Not only for one day, for more than one day, for a few months, maybe a few years. And he remained like that, sitting on his throne, holding on to the staff, the dead body, until some termites came and started nibbling at the bottom of the staff. And they took a few years, perhaps, to nibble enough until the staff lost its balance. And when the staff lost its balance, then the body of Suleiman lost its balance and he collapsed. I am not happy in saying, but that is nonsense. That is nonsense. What happened was, when Suleiman alayhi salam died, everybody knew he was dead and he was buried. But when he made the dua, لا ينبغي لأحد من بعدي لا ينبغي ملكا لا ينبغي أحد من بعدي, grant me a kingdom incomparable to any other. Then Allah gave him the jinn, the shayateen of the jinn, who were ordered to work for him. And some of them were آخرين مقرنين في الأسفل. They were in chains. Shayateen min al-jinn. And these shayateen did not know that he was dead. Allah gave them orders that you must obey Sulaiman alayhi salam. And if you disobey, I will punish you with terrible punishment. The reason why they did not know that Suleiman is dead was because even though he was dead, they were still seeing him sitting on the throne, holding on to his staff, talking and walking and moving, and so they're convinced he's alive. So the Jasad sitting on the throne, so long as he's holding on to the staff, is able to use the minsa, with C, not sad. He's able to use the minsa of the staff to intervene in time and to move time backwards and forwards to show Suleiman still alive. When I was studying this subject, I approached two scholars of Arabic, both of them with PhDs. One was Syrian with a PhD in Quranic semantics, and the other was Palestinian with a PhD in Quranic Arabic. And I asked both of them, what is the minsa? And both of them replied, the minsa is the staff. The kan is asa with sword, and minsa with sea. So I said, I don't agree with these two scholars. And I came to the conclusion that the minsa is not the staff, but the minsa is a miraculous quality of the staff. Throw the staff on the ground, it becomes a stick. Strike the water with the cane, and the water parted. Tell Netanyahu for me, please. It's coming back. It's coming back. Strike the rock with the cane. 12 streams of water came. And so the staff of Suleiman alayhi salam controls time. And if you hold that staff, you can change time, you can corrupt time. The staff of Suleiman alayhi salam has a minsa which is connected with time. Nasi, minsa, nasi. Innama nasi'u ziyadatun lil kufr. The same word, nasi. The staff of Suleiman alayhi salam has a miraculous quality which can control time, in which you can bring about corruption of time with backward and forward movement of time. And so Dajjal is still holding on to that staff of Suleiman now up to this moment, And Dajjal is still using the minsa of the staff to get the jinn to work for the state of Israel. On another occasion, we'll be able to establish the relationship between the jinn, the shayateen, and modern Western civilization, as well as the state of Israel. What we have done tonight is we have established the relationship between Dajjal and time. And that Dajjal is going to corrupt sacred time and demolish sacred time to replace it with bogus, secular, godless time. This is the difficult part of the subject. Tomorrow night will be an easier topic. When we first of all, we're going to explain to you and describe to you from the Quran the system of sacred time. And then we will explain to you tomorrow night how Dajjal has destroyed it and replaced it with bogus, godless, secular time. But the third lecture, which will be the following night, will be the most important one of all. If we are to return to sacred time, to living with sacred time, how do we do it? Is there a way that we can return to sacred time and get our hearts to beat in harmony with sacred time? And we no longer will perceive time moving faster and yet faster. That is the third lecture. When we finish with the subject of sacred time and Dajjal, I then want to take you to the last book I've written, entitled The Quran and Russia's Destiny. Last February of last year, I was invited to a conference in Moscow, and when the conference was over, I was invited, to my surprise, to have dinner with a small group, about 15 of us, with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and he spent about 2 hours with us, and he was very in a jovial mood, talking and laughing and joking, but all about politics and economics, until I intervened. Mr. Minister, would you allow me to speak on the Quran and in Russia? Then there's silence. And then he said, yes, go ahead. And when I was finished, he said, can you write on the subject? So I spent the next 5 months writing this book, which no one has ever written on before, the Quran and Russia's Destiny. And in this I go to Surah Al-Rum, and Surah Al-Kahf, and then Surah Al-Anbiya, and that topic will be taking 2 more days. And then after I complete 2 lectures on that subject for you, I then want to spend 1 evening on methodology for study of the Quran, usul al-tafsir. I am a fisherman. I'm fishing for students who tomorrow will be scholars. That's why I travel the world teaching. When I'm finished with methodology for study of the Quran, then I have one more lecture. The most important event now remaining to occur in history for us Sunni. The Sunni has one view, the Shia has another. For us, it is the return of Al-Masih, Nabi Isa alayhi salam. What does the Quran say on the subject of the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam? This is so important because there were two Sheikh al-Azhar, who gave fatwa that Jesus is not coming back. And there have been several distinguished scholars of Islam who have declared Jesus is not coming back. My own teacher of blessed memory, who is one of the greatest scholars of his age, Maulana Dr. Muhammad Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah, he has said that the return of Jesus is only a prophecy of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Nothing in the Quran to support it. So we want to spend one day on the Quran and the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. When I went to Qom in Iran, I found, to my surprise, that the Shia believe that the most important event awaiting to occur in history is the advent of Imam al-Mahdi. And then after that, we'll have one more day before I depart. And that day, I leave it open to you to ask any question on any subject you want. Okay, now we can now ask any questions you have. No questions, so we should have some coffee.
The question is regarding the book of Russia's Destiny. Was it published yet? And what is the title?
The title of the book is The Quran and Russia's Destiny. It is published in English. You can order it from my bookstore, imranhussain.com. It is translated already to Russian. It will be launched in Moscow in April, inshallah. It is translated to Norwegian. It is being translated to French. It is being translated to Urdu. It is translated to Turkish and several other languages. imranhussain.com.
The question is regarding the contraction of time. It seems like it is our perception of time which has changed based on all the informations which are bombarding us like all the time with social medias and the modern society. Do you think it's perception or it is the reality of time which is changing?
I described it as a sickness, a disease. It is not simply that we are perceiving time moving faster, when in fact the moon is always punctual. Time is not moving faster. It is not just that we are perceiving time moving faster, but more than that. That we pay a price for the abandonment of sacred time with a disease that enters into the heart. And that disease is going to drive us crazy. Time moving fast. You can't enjoy life anymore.
It's not a question. He says it looks like we are now heading to a lifestyle which resembles the genes once, because they're fast and they're fire and they are going too fast. That's why the world is getting sicker and sicker.
Interesting view.
Intéressant.
I think a better explanation would be الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس. That those who consume riba will eventually live like a people who have been driven to madness by the touch of shaitan. That's how investment bankers in Manhattan live today. Driven to madness.
Jusqu'à la folie.
Jusqu'à la folie.
What is your methodology to connect the dots between the prophecies and the actual events
Contemporary events.
happening in our time?
You're going to have to invite me to come back again. Yeah. Inshallah, another time.
I'm not sure I understand the question, but he's asking, like, why is Ramadan moving year after year? Sometimes we fast in summer, sometimes in winter, sometimes in downfall. Why is it not like at the same moment of the year every year?
Allah gave us the moon to count the years. And He gave us the seasons, spring and summer and autumn and winter, for a different reason. All of mankind today, except a few, have abandoned the moon for counting the years. And the Arabs did it at the time of the Quran. They wanted Ramadan to come every year in the summer, not moving. They wanted Ramadan to come in the summer. The only way Ramadan could always come in the summer is if you abandon the lunar year and you replace it with the solar year.
Okay, so this was the last question. C'était la dernière question. The question is regarding the hadith mentioning that whoever reads the 10 first verses of Surah Al-Kahf, Yawm al-Jum'ah will be protected from the Dajjal. What is your opinion on this, on the authenticity of this hadith?
I accept the hadith and I recommend that you memorize the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf, especially when you have to face immigration, when you're traveling. However, I am of the opinion that what the Prophet ﷺ did is to establish a relationship between Surah Al-Kahf and Dajjal, and hence an obligation on us to not only recite Surah Al-Kahf, but also to study Surah Al-Kahf in the context of the subject of Dajjal. And that is why today I have offered you an explanation that they slept for 300 years, but they added 9. And I gave you an explanation you probably never heard of before. This is connected with Dajjal. Yeah.
The question is regarding the month, the 30th month which was added at the time of Mecca.
The 13th month.
Yes. How long was this month? It was comprised of how many days?
The people of Mecca had not yet abandoned the moon. But today we've abandoned the moon. So they still had the moon from one hilal to the next. That was a month. But what they did was to add an extra month to the 12 every third year, so that Ramadan will always come in the summer. This was corruption of time, and the Quran refers to it in Surah At-Tawbah as Nasi. Nasi, the corruption of time, sacred time. And Allah declared it to be kufr, and the road to ever increasing kufr.
The question is, the jasad, which was described by the Sheikh as a body, human body without a human soul. What can you say about this jasad? Can you tell us more about it?
First of all, no one has so far attempted to study the subject of Dajjal at this depth. No one has done it, that I am aware of. And so I am engaged in an effort of trying to extend the frontiers of knowledge. Every human being, Allah breathes into him, وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي. Every human being is endowed with freedom. The human spirit, the human nafs is a nafs with freedom in it. Freedom to think, freedom to act. But Dajjal does not have that kind of nafs or human soul. He does not have the freedom to think, nor does he have the freedom to act. He is programmed. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا خَلَقَ. Allah has created an evil being. And the function of Dajjal is to transform all of us into jasad like himself. So, he is chipping away at our freedom, little by little, depriving us of the freedom to think for ourselves. You don't have to think anymore, I will think for you. The Prophet said, when you stand for Salat, stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder. If you leave any space, Shaitan will take that space. But I am telling you something else, and you must listen to me, not to the Prophet. You must stand 3 feet apart. And all of us, like monkeys, we stood 3 feet apart.
Comme des singes.
Comme les singes. So Allah gave us the freedom to think and the freedom to act. And Dajjal is going to transform us and brainwash us, that we will no longer think for ourselves, others will think for us. We'll no longer act for ourselves, others will act for us. So I spend my time traveling, trying to get our people to think once more. And when I try to get them to think, guess what they do? They shut the doors of the masjid on me. And so we thank the management of this masjid that they've given me the freedom to speak at this masjid here. I just visited Albania. I went to Albania several times. But this time when I went, they said, no, you're not allowed in this country. I had to spend the whole night in the airport, in the departure lawn, no place to sleep. The next morning, they sent me back to Belgrade, but they didn't send my baggage. I had to wait several days to get my baggage. I don't know which countries are going to block me now in the future, because they don't want me to get my people to think. I used to think that the Americans are the most brainwashed people on the face of the earth, until I changed my mind when I came to know the government of Pakistan and the armed forces of Pakistan, generals in the armed forces of Pakistan. Yeah, tomorrow, same time.
Some people have books. Can you sign them?
Yes, of course. Give me a bit.
Donc, je vous demande de vous retrouver entre vous, s'il y a d'autres sœurs qui prennent le train ce soir ou qui sont véhiculés qui retournent à Paris. Merci de vous rapprocher.
ما فيك شيخ.
Il y a des personnes qui
Okay,
sont
right.
rentrées à Paris ou en banlieue, mais qui sont sortis.